Call the meeting to order. Todd Ging and Lewis are absent. Our invocation this evening will be given by Carol Still. Carol is the pastor at Willow Road Christian Church. And following that, we'll have flag salute. And I think I'll ask Ono to lead us in the pledge after the invocation.
You pray with me. Gracious God, we thank you for the blessings of our community, this wonderful city that we call our homes. We ask your blessings also upon our leaders and especially those who are gathered here tonight. Grant them wisdom that they may govern diligently and that they may look to the needs of our community and our people. We thank you for your love and for all that you have done for us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 4, consider approval of minutes of the regular session agenda of January the 15th, 2013, and special session agenda of January 24, 2013.
I'll make a motion to approve with the correction that
A motion by Mike,
Commissioner Jansen had made a correction earlier.
second. Second by Ron. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 5, awards, presentations, and organizational business. Item 5.1, present the pet available for adoption at the city animal shelter.
Doesn't look like he's been missing it.
Not very much.
Dean Robertson with Enid Animal Control. And what I brought here tonight is a little lab. It's about 3 to 4 months old. It's a male. He needs a good home. He's a lovable little dog. We have a bunch of animals at the shelter. Our hours are from 10 to 6 Monday through Friday and 12 to 3 on Saturday and Sunday. Come on out and take a look at what we have.
I'm sure you'd make a great lap dog.
Tempted, Gene.
That's a cute dog. A good home up on the north side.
Just hanging out.
It's cute.
It's a cute dog.
We have some proclamations. Eric's going to read one. We have one current and one that we're catching up with. So I will let Eric read the proclamations, and then we have one for the 5 AMBUCS clubs here in Enid.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have 2 very important proclamations here, and let's do the one that we've been remiss on first. This states that whereas, and first of all, Ms. Bluebaugh, would you come forward? Don't you just love surprises? Me too. And it's good to see you. Please come right up here where the cameras can get a good focus on you. Whereas Anna Bluebaugh has been a member of the AMBUCS for 20 years and has served various positions including Superior Chapter President, Chapter Secretary, District 5B Treasurer and Governor, Great Plains Region Big Hat and Region Director, AMBUC National President, Ability Ambassador, Club Building Chairman, and a participant in the AMBUC National Scholarship Committee. Anna has been an empowering exemplar in all her commitment to the excellence and extensive leadership abilities which are evident by the many awards she has received while honoring and serving the AMBUC Club. The City of Enid greatly appreciates Anna Blubaugh's loyal dedication to the AMBUCS Club and the Enid community. Therefore, I, Bill Shuey, Mayor of the City of Enid, do hereby proclaim February 5th, 2013 as Anna Bluebaugh Day.
Speech.
Thank you. That
This is awesome. Thank you very much, Mayor. You know, whenever, and Kent as well as our current national president, we have had a great opportunity to travel across the nation in representing AMBUCS and telling everyone about our mission to create mobility and independence for people with disabilities. But in that, we've also been representing Enid, because I promise you that as we travel across the nation, everyone that is a member of this civic group knows where Enid, Oklahoma is. So we have also had the honor of representing you across the nation, and that has been tremendous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Klingenpeel, I see you sitting back there. Would you come forward, please? Try not to damage the cameras in your... Kent, it's good to see you. I have a proclamation here that states, whereas Kent Klingenpeel has been a member of AMBUCS for 31 years. He's a life member of the National AMBUCS for 8 years, and is the current AMBUC National President. He has served in various positions within the AMBUC Club, including Chapter Treasurer, Superior Chapter President, Great Plains Region Big Hat and Region Director, Ability Ambassador, and member of the Club Building Committee, and helped establish 7 Amtrak evaluation sites. Whereas the City of Enid greatly appreciates Kent Klingenpeel's loyal dedication to the AMBUCS Club and the Enid community, now therefore I, Bill Shuey, Mayor of the City of Enid, do hereby proclaim February 5th, 2013 as Kent Klingenpeel Day.
Hey.
Well, the good news is Ann already said about everything there is to say, but the one thing she didn't say was that you'll be happy to know that Enid is still the AMBUC capital of the world. We have more AMBUCs per capita in Enid, Oklahoma than anywhere. We have 5 clubs in Enid. Nobody has 5 clubs. We have almost 300 members, which no other city has. So we're very proud of the work that we do. We go out and work hard, doing all our fundraisers to support our mission by building ramps, giving away Amtraks, giving scholarships to therapists, and giving back to the community. And one of the most important things is that we know as AMBUCS is that we change people's lives, and that's why we're so dedicated to doing what we're doing. So thank you.
Keep it up.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I believe we have a representative from each of the 5 AMBUC clubs here tonight. If I'm mistaken, then I apologize, but those 5 representatives, would you step forward, please?
Great.
This is another proclamation in which we can all take great pride. The American Business Club is a group of civic-minded individuals who have extensively and generously given of their time and resources to address the needs of Enid through community service for over 80 years. City of Enid has benefited immensely from the hard work and dedication shown by all the local AMBUCS chapters through projects such as the Junior Patrol Program, ABC Park, Keep Woodring Beautiful, Cherry Pie Day, Amtrak Rodeo, school supplies, donations to the Children's Library, placement of flags around the square on holidays, wheelchair ramps project, Adopt a Highway, Leonardo's, Youth and Family Services, YMCA Back a Youth, Make a Difference Day, Food for Kids, Spruce Up a Life, hanging of the Christmas lights for Enid, Lights Up the Plains, and a variety of other wonderful, noteworthy achievement. Whereas since 1955, AMBUCS across the nation have donated over $7 million to scholarships for therapy student programs impacting over 14,000 students. AMBUCS consistently gives away Amtrak's therapeutic tricycles for people of all ages with disabilities. Now, therefore, I, Bill Shuey, Mayor of the City of Enid, do hereby proclaim February 2013 is Ambucks Visibility Month.
Started with the pretty one first. Congratulations. Eli.
You bet, buddy. Good to see you.
There'll be two here.
Hello, Eli. Good to see you, pal.
Each of you do a good job with your clubs, and it is appreciated. Do you have anything, Enid? Under item 5, 5.2, presentation of the downtown hotel development, and the presenters will be David Owen and David Mashburn. Dave and Dave.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I'm very pleased that we have this opportunity tonight to share with the community some truly exciting news. You have been, for the past 3 years, pursuing the last parcel of the downtown plan, and in some minds, the most important. We have evaluated 4 different options and 4 different proposals. The staff and those commissioners involved in examining this project are very pleased that you're going to hear what we find to be a most compelling presentation. We have before us 2 gentlemen of extraordinary capability and experience, not only in the banking industry, but also the hotel and developmental world. More than that, they're both proven public servants, both at the state and the community level. And we're very proud to have them both here, Mr. Dave Owen and Mr. Dave Mashburn.
Thank you very much, Mayor Shuey, members of the commission, members of the staff. It's an honor for Dave Mashburn and I to be back here to make this presentation this evening. For those of you on the commission, you know that we came here in early December to meet with you the first time to learn about this project. I want to thank my old basketball teammate, Sherm Price, back here, a member of your community, for telling me about the opportunity, which led us to come down. When we got here, I can say without equivocation that we were truly impressed by this community and what you, as a commission, a city government, have done in your downtown core project. Dave and I have the opportunity to visit communities all over the country and to see a city who's taken the brave, bold steps that you've taken in the Civic Center and remodeling of the Conference Center is truly amazing. And it was that project that gave us the confidence that this would be, even though it's kind of a leap of faith in the downtown area, as you've taken to put a hotel there, what you've done gave us the confidence that this is something that we should pursue. So we told you that we would go back and we would study this, and we would come back with some alternatives for you that you could take a look at, and then we would jointly make decisions about what would take place. We did not come here as a developer, pure developer, to tell you this is the way you ought to do it. We came here with the idea of being in partnership with the city of Enid to develop a project that not only we both can be happy with, but we can actually find the very best way to do this development that works for all parties. So with that in mind, this is what we have come up with. And when we first came down, we were given 4 different alternatives for where this hotel could possibly be located, and I'll have to tell you, we didn't choose any of them. We came up with a little different spin on it. For those of you who've been here a long time, you will recognize the fact that this is the old Crest building right here. And we have been able to incorporate the facade of that building into our project. And the hotel then will be built around the Crest facade and will end up being a 131-room Hilton Garden Inn is what we are proposing to the city. I'm going to let Dave Mashburn, who truly If there's anyone in America who has had more experience in building hotel projects of large magnitude and great impact, I don't know anyone else that I would call on other than Dave. So I'm going to let him take you through some of the experiences that he's had in hotel projects as a development director for John Q. Hammonds.
Sir. Well, I echo Dave's sentiments. We're really excited about this opportunity, and it's really a unique set of circumstances, really, that has piqued our interest. So as Dave said, we really come in a collaborative spirit and one where we want to build consensus with everyone so that everyone is happy with the result. Our team is made up of Lodgewell as the master developer. We have an architectural firm based in Springfield, Missouri that's actually celebrating their 50th year in business, and they've done over 200 hotels. They have a tremendous amount of experience. I worked with them a lot when I was at John Q. Hammonds company, and they're just a great firm. We're also working with Timberlake Construction based in Oklahoma City, and I believe they've done some projects here in the Enid market. And then an interior design firm based in Dallas, Texas called Matchline Design, and they have a tremendous amount of hotel experience, and they're particularly good at coming into a market and trying to pick up the essence of that community and not just plop down a branded product, if you will. So we're excited about them being on our team. You know, we've talked about Dave and I here in past meetings, but I'll just quickly summarize. I have over $3 billion in project experience, if you can imagine that. I feel old just saying that. Most of them were convention center hotel projects with a whole blend of deal structures, if you will, from publicly owned to privately owned, and usually a combination of both of those. Dave has a long history in finance and real estate development and banking, and we feel like we've got a great synergy, and we're excited about bringing that experience together. Some of the projects that I was involved in, just a few here recently. Is it better if I point back here for that one? This project here is in Overland Park. It's the Overland Park, Kansas Sheraton Hotel and Convention Center. Project that was really another kind of public-private venture, very successful. This project in the upper right is in Glendale, Arizona. It's a Marriott Renaissance with a city convention center here to the side, and then also a media center. The whole project was built immediately prior to the Super Bowl that was held at the Cardinal Stadium here that year.
Dave, stay a little closer to the mic, please.
Sorry. So the project was built to open in time for the Super Bowl that was that year in Glendale. This project is in Allen, Texas, kind of North Dallas, a Marriott Courtyard and Convention Center, and also joins an event center in that community. This, some of you may recognize, is in Oklahoma City. It's a Bricktown part of Oklahoma City. It's a Residence Inn by Marriott. This project is in Rogers, Arkansas. It's an Embassy Suite hotel with a large convention center. And then the last project here is in Normal, Illinois, which has some similarities. It was a downtown that wanted to revitalize, and they wanted a convention center and a hotel. And so this is a Marriott hotel with a convention center behind it and then a parking structure adjoining it. Just again, a little bit about our partner, Hood Rich. They're actually celebrating their 50th year in business this year. And as I mentioned, they've done over 200 hotel projects in their history. Actually, this project here you may recognize is the Embassy Suite in Norman, Oklahoma. So as we look at the project here in Enid, what we talked about initially and being pretty consistent with what your feasibility study recommended, We are envisioning a 131-room Hilton Garden Inn, which is one of the Hilton products, a parking component, and possibly a retail component. We've had some great visits with the CVB office here in Enid, and we would love to incorporate them into the project. And then we see the potential for a future second hotel as an extended stay hotel product, a little bit different. So this is the map that was actually in your hotel RFP from a year and a half ago. And as Dave mentioned, we looked at really all of the site options that were in that plan, A, B, C, and D. And we pretty quickly eliminated these potential sites B and C here, mostly because of blocking the view of the event center. And we heard that from the community here, and we totally agree with that. And I think that would take away from kind of this plaza space here. So we began to focus on really A and D. And so we've developed both of these. I'll show you both of them. We really began to focus probably more so on this A location or something near that. And the real dynamic we were trying to look at is the connection between the hotel and the convention center. Not really so much the event center. The hotel and convention center has almost a daily connection that happens all the time. And so we wanted to find a way to potentially physically connect the two. And so we began to look at various ways to do that, and we had several meetings with your architect in Kansas City that did the event center, Convergence Architects. Great company, and they were extremely helpful in helping us come up with a potential solution. So this is really the configuration that we've settled on for this particular site. As you can see, we've located the hotel here, and it's actually enveloping the Crest building. And so we're really kind of hugging the Crest building, if you will. And we wanted to keep that as part of the heritage of Enid, and we understand how important that is. So the hotel then is situated here with the main entrance off of Independence Street, and then this connection to the event center. That's a covered hallway, if you will, to the event center, which allows you to go from a covered all the way through the event center and into the convention center. We were able to keep the plaza area with that configuration, and we were able to accommodate the truck access for the event center. What's really interesting about this is it kind of shelters or hides, if you will, the back of house component to the event center, and the same is true for the hotel. Along Main Street here, we have incorporated a parking structure with this alternative that would incorporate some retail space along Main Street. So we wanted to extend that feel of the square and the Main Street development and create some new retail opportunities. And we're going to, actually, this is probably a good point to ask Ricky to maybe comment on the potential for that.
Well, in our previous discussions, we talked about the validity of some retail component downtown, and when you have the drawing power of the convention center and the built-in audience and ambiance of a quality hospitality offering that you proposed here, it's just a natural fit and continues well, I think, with your theme of really extending downtown, even some of the retail component of downtown, keeping it focused on just being downtown in it, where we're all, along with the other structures that are there. I really like the in a lot of larger urban areas around the country, you see that old architecture hugged, if you will, by other structures, and I think that's a great component too, in design on your part as well.
We really felt like not only does the retail architecturally help the project, look like it fits better, but an important dynamic to a successful convention center and hotel is really creating a destination that's more than just the hotel and convention center, because the reality is people want things to do when they're not in their meetings. And I've seen cities do developments where they left that piece of the puzzle out, and it's to the detriment. And so this is not a lot of retail and dining, but it's some, and we hope that it'll spur more of that kind of development in the downtown and create that destination feel.
Dave?
Yes, sir.
Go back to that slide a minute. Are there entrances and exits on the main street? Am I seeing that
Yes.
side? The map is 90 degrees out of,
Along Main Street here?
yes.
Yeah, you'll be able to go in and out of the hotel from that side. In fact, we probably will create even a secondary entrance there from the street.
Not loading and unloading?
Well, potentially, we could do that. I mean, the main hotel entrance is here, and you'll kind of see that on the floor plan, but
Okay.
we could explore that for sure. So here is the first floor of the hotel, and it's relatively typical to a Hilton Garden Inn prototype. You've got the main entry and lobby. Here's the entry canopy from on the outside. So the lobby is here, elevators, the dining component, some meeting space, and here, of course, we're really essentially in the Crest building. So this would be either meeting space or potential lease retail space, or the CVB could remain there. We also show the potential for the CVB having a new space if we go the direction of the retail component. You'll also see the hallway covered connection, again, down to the exhibit hall. This is the next floor up, and really the rooms on this side are really, again, incorporated into the Crest building. That kind of left a middle space, so we incorporated some meeting rooms and then actually an open area down, and so you can see down into the first floor. So now we're up on the third level of the hotel, and this is now actually the roof of the Crest building. And as you may remember, you saw some greenery in that elevation. We're going to make this a roof garden. So these rooms will actually have a garden deck, if you will. Really dynamic feature, I feel like. And so now on the fourth floor, you're above everything, and this is a pretty typical fourth floor room layout. 131 keys is what we come up with in total. So now, looking back to the other site that we talked about as a potential. Mike, do you have a question?
Well, we kind of skipped over the parking with that, and I know that that's something that might be of interest.
Sure.
Elaborate on that.
Absolutely. So this version of the layout has, and it may not look like it, but it actually is a parking structure. There's the first level. You've got a little bit of parking on that first level, but you really are coming in from these entrances and going up a ramp, and so most of the parking is above the retail, and it totals 250 spaces with this version. We could do more or less. Another thought is to really just do a single level deck that really is essentially a roof. Could still incorporate the retail component, the Main Street retail look, but it wouldn't have the height of a multi-story parking structure. Okay, so back to the site D. This is across to the, what would that be, west? The west. The conference center is here. And this is basically that whole site that you now have designated as parking for the convention and event space. The hotel would really take that whole site to incorporate enough parking for it. This is a pretty typical prototype, again. Fits very easily, very simply on that site. There are really kind of two negatives to this scenario. One is that although you're near the convention center, there's no covered connection. And to make that connection, you could potentially bridge across the street, but then you're having to go up to go down, basically. The other con or negative, I guess, to this location is that you've now lost that parking that you really had designated for the other project. So that's something to consider. This is really kind of going back to the alternative with the hotel located here, and this being just surface parking, just a flat lot, no structure, no retail, just paved lot. You take it from there?
What we have done in approaching this is we didn't want to come with just a plan for a hotel, but rather we put together a team of people that we believe can answer every aspect of this development, as you've seen from the standpoint of the development of the project, the architecture of the project, but we also have some financial experts involved on our team. And I would like to right now introduce Charlie Zitnick with D.A. Davidson and Company. To speak for a moment, D.A. Davidson is an investment bank that has done a lot of work in the state of Oklahoma and significant work right here in Enid. Charlie.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you for the opportunity to address you tonight. As Dave said, I'm with D.A. Davidson, and D.A. Davidson's relevance nationally and to Oklahoma, I will detail. We're a over 75-year-old full-service investment bank, and a large part of our practice is municipal finance, financial advisory for communities. We are in the top 5 nationally of underwriters, which in Oklahoma, that's probably not all that significant, but perhaps what is more significant is we're the #1 underwriter of municipal debt in the state of Oklahoma. I am proud to work with Tom Thompson and John Banks of our Oklahoma office on this project, and they collectively have more years of experience than I am old, and I'm old. So that kind of gives you a sense for the breadth of the company. And our recent experience in Enid was on the Enid School District bond financing. And part of municipal finance is getting comfortable with the particular credit. And this gets past the financial measurements, or perhaps even prior to the financial measurements, are the metrics having to deal with the character of the community, the competence of the leadership, I guess the collective wisdom that a community brings. We think Enid has a tremendous credit story, and that's because of the dynamics of the leadership of this community, the character of the community. And when you look at this community, it's a community that is not running from its past, but is embracing its heritage. And that's clear when you drive in from I-35, just the cleanliness and the upkeep of the community. The citizens take care of their property, and the city clearly takes care of its responsibilities to the citizens. We have had an opportunity to engage on this project. I think the uniqueness that each team member that's been outlined tonight brings to this is something that's also unique to the city. It's not anybody telling you how to do this. It's giving you options and figuring out what's going to be best for all of the stakeholders, for the citizens of the community, for the city, and the ability to get that dream financed. We think we've been invited to put the crown on the crown jewel of Enid. And there are any number of ways to approach this from a finance perspective and an ownership perspective. And I think in the weeks ahead, we'll be drilling down on those structures, and collectively, we will figure out what is in the best interest of the city. And with that, Dave, I think I'll turn it back unless there are questions I can answer with regard to D.A. Davidson and our work in Oklahoma.
have all been answered already, so.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Charlie. One very unique feature of this development is that it is in what is called a new market tax credit census tract. And that offers an opportunity for some funds for whoever the owner of this project happens to be to benefit from that new market tax credit availability. And so we've invited who I consider to be the leading expert on this subject in this area, Charles Caton from the HWH Group, and I'd like to ask Charles to come up and speak to the new market tax credit aspect of this.
Thank you, Dave, and to Mr. Mayor, Mr. City Manager, Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Our company is part of a 125-year-old, the oldest family-owned general construction company in Texas. And I hope you won't hold that against me because I'm Oklahoma-born and live in Oklahoma and plan to always. And our corporate headquarters are only 12 miles south of the Red River. So if anything happens, we'll grab that part of Texas. So they're almost Oklahoma. Again, I appreciate being here. I think one of the things, as he just said, is unique about this is just this incentive that's available to you. This particular census tract that this development is located in is characterized as highly distressed, non-metropolitan. So don't feel bad about that because that's a good thing for our purposes tonight. In seeking an allocation of these federal credits, this gives you a much better chance than a metropolitan community or a community that, essentially does not need them. And the fact that you've already started this revitalization, you've invested money, you're doing all those things, gives you a heads up. This program is not something I invented or some sort of a game. It is created by Treasury. It was created by Congress, first of all, in the year 2000. It really got started around 2003. In fact, our company was one of the first ones to do a new markets project in Paris, Texas, under the old interest rate model. So we've used it ourselves. Since that time, there's been about $34 billion worth of these projects done across the United States. So it is a tried and true process. It's complicated. It's highly vetted. There's tremendous amount of legal oversight and accounting oversight. So it's not one of these kinds of games that somebody comes and tells you about. If you keep this in mind, it's basically invented by the IRS. So there's a lot of oversight in this program. If the bottom line to keep in mind, I think for you tonight, is that if successful in securing an allocation of these credits, the bottom line benefit to the project owner, whether it's a private owner, whether it's a city, you can use a benchmark of about 20% of the project value. So if this is a $20 million project, you can look at about a $4 million net benefit to the project owner. And in the timeline, I've been asked about that. Once funds are absolutely available and can be used, once that's available, it'll take about, the very shortest period of time is 90 days, probably 6 months being the latest. So 4 to 5 months to complete. So it's really not that long of a process. I think it's one that you certainly want to consider. It's something that we will have to write the story, because we have to create a compelling story to those groups that have the credits as to why they should allocate their credits to this project. That's what we do, and there's others that do this around the country. We think we're pretty good at it. We represent a lot of folks around the United States in helping do these projects, and we would certainly be interested and happy into helping this project receive this very unique incentive. Dave, is there anything else I can add?
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When we came down, and we have continued to say to you that we are here to help you get this done, and we will do that either one of two ways. We will either do it in a privately financed structure, or we'll do it and help you with a city-owned approach to the project. For Dave and I and Lodwell, we're here prepared to invest $14 million in a hotel in Enid, Oklahoma. How the rest of the structure goes together is really for you folks to decide how you would like to proceed. The next steps are really to determine, and one of the important factors here is that in order to get in line for these new market tax credits, we want to meet the October allotment. And so we need to get started with getting the story together and a very compelling story so that when we do present it, we can be pretty sure that we're going to get that allocation. From our standpoint, we have to fund it as though new market tax credits didn't exist. New market tax credits, in my mind, are just gravy in this deal if they come about. We need to decide on the parking structure. First of all, how big is it going to be? Do you want the retail to be involved in it? How is it going to be paid for? Dave and I have been under a letter of intent with the city to give us time to do just what we're doing here this evening. To put together some alternative proposals for you so you can make a considered decision about which way you want to go. And I hope you think that we have done what you'd ask us to do. We would like to be the master developer of this project. I think it's very important. You've got an over $30 million investment in that area already. And what's done from here forward is extremely important to make sure that that investment stays intact, and what's done from here forward only enhances the project, and we're prepared to do that. We need to work cooperatively, not only on new markets, but any other incentives that we can work out, credits of any kind, anything that will enhance financing. And of course, we're going to ask you to do what basically you've already agreed to do in terms of the incentives that you've offered to developers in your RFP and other discussions. So with that, that is our presentation. And again, we've spent a lot of time, as Dave said. We've worked with David Grissel of Convergence, very constructive meetings with him, with Ricky Hayes with the retail aspect of this. We've gotten a lot of investment in this already, as you probably can tell from the architectural drawings and work that our architects have done to figure out how to make this work. And so we're prepared to go forward if you are.
Are there 2 incentive periods for the market tax credits?
Excuse me?
Are there 2 incentive periods in
Yes,
13?
I'll defer to Charles here, but that's correct.
There's an allocation in the fiscal cliff legislation that was just passed. There's a $3.5 billion allocation that will be coming out in April. That's for the whole United States. It's really too late, realistically, to get in line for that one. However, there will be some credits that won't get used, but you can't count on that. The next allocation will be around October of this year. So it's critical that you make a decision which way you're going to go, and so you can get in line. We have to get this project in the entities. They're called community development entities, or CDEs. We must get this project in their pipelines, because that's how they do it. They move very quickly and they allocate their credits. So it really needs to be, we need to be talking to them, or whomever you choose needs to be talking to these folks, getting your project in front of them really next 60, 90 days. So to be in the best position that you can be in.
Where does that pipeline run to?
Sir?
Where does the pipeline you're talking about
The
end?
pipeline I'm talking about is projects that each CDE will build up. And we also are providers of projects to CDEs.
Washington or Oklahoma City?
All across
Dallas.
the United States. These are CDs. You have 5 in Oklahoma that have been awarded credits over time.
Okay.
We will look, obviously, we'd like to use Oklahoma, but we do not rely on that. We work across the nation with CDs. There's some CDs that are nationwide, some are regional, some are just very, very local. There's a wide variety.
Is there any reason not to ask for them?
Sir?
Would there be a reason not to ask for them?
Is there a reason not to ask for the credits?
Not to ask for the credits, I have no knowledge. We do this for all sides, for communities, for major corporations, and I cannot think of any downside to the project owner for receiving an allocation and receiving this.
Probably could show us 2.8 million reasons why we should apply for it, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I think it's important for the audience particularly, and especially for the community. I'm aware that you understand the history on this, but I'm certain that there are many in the audience and in the listening community who are not familiar with how we got to this point. So for prudence, allow me a few points. This is the fourth proposal we have considered for the downtown hotel. We, 18 months ago, published an RFP for development of a downtown facility, and it came back with a requirement of a $7.4 million investment by the city before construction would begin. We rejected that notion, and quite wisely, I might add, but it also required a redevelopment of some open property in what is now considered the green space in the downtown plan. The second proposal came about as we knew it would when steel started coming out of the ground for the event center and the refurbishment of Convention Hall. At that time, you'll recall that we established a template of acceptability that embraced a broad array of anticipated enticements by the city that we would have to provide to encourage development for a downtown hotel. Those included upfront equity investment. They included land transfers, utility requirements, a waiver of developmental fees, and a variety of other financial considerations. But the bottom line was that we were required at each and every case and the subsequent evaluations of these submissions to be a participant in the equity position. In other words, we had to come up with a big chunk of change, the smallest amount of which was just south of $1 million. Now, we almost signed one of those, as you're aware. Ricky Hayes brokered an opportunity for us. And we were at the station with a pen ready to sign, and wisely we backed away at the last moment. And by great fortitude, Mr. Hermansky is my new hero, but we have been introduced to an entity that provides not only for us the wherewithal to meet all of our template requirements well inside the range of acceptability, but it is important to point out there's not seeking $1 of equity from the city of Enid. There is a proposal for an expansion of a retail opportunity that has never been proposed in any previous submission. 17,000 square feet of retail development. It proposes an option for the city to consider outright ownership or a financing via the entities that are proposed here for their ownership. And ownership is something of a misnomer in this case, but ownership in the sense that we own Convention Hall and the Event Center. We also have the opportunity to focus the parking requirement for the downtown, which, as you know, has been a painful item for your consideration the past year. But never in that case have we ever been presented with all elements of the proposal. In other words, each time we went out for a proposal or entertained a proposal from the industry, we would have to have signed an architect to design. We would have had to broker that deal. We would have had to then retain the services of a developer. And then we, as a community, would have to expend dollars to find and secure financing for the project. I have never seen a presentation that covers all points of the compass like this one does. I'm very proud to have the association with the gentlemen and ladies that carry the integrity of their history in public service and very visible positions in the business world, and they found us. I submit that our investment in self is starting to pay off. So if I'm excited, if I sound like I'm excited, I am immensely so.
Good point. I agree with you. You've been great to work with. A couple haven't been. Even made Eric grow a beard.
Maybe I'll shave it all off if it'll make it. Mayor and Commissioners, I would propose that we, as you know, you have vetted this issue. You have studied it extensively. Staff and our presenters here have spent countless hours in explaining their motives and their intent. It's been evaluated by our retail developer as well as our economic development authority. I propose that we move to a decision, and with your approval, I'd like to bring this back at our next city council meeting to consider a master development agreement and all the attendant issues that we've discussed tonight.
I'm in favor of that.
I'd be in favor of that as well.
Isn't that the case if we need to get into that October timeframe?
Time is of the essence, yes, sir.
If I understand it that way.
We're not pursuing this just because we need to make haste on assuming credits. This is the right decision at the right time. Regardless of the new market tax credit, I would similarly pursue at our next opportunity consideration of this agreement. We're already operating under a letter of intent. The next step is a master development agreement.
To me, we have a lot of cities in the state of Oklahoma between $50,000 and $100,000 that do not have what Enid has, and that is a downtown and a plan like this to attract people and quality of life.
I can second that, Mr. Mayor. As I said, we see a lot of cities, a lot of people call us to come and talk to them about their development. I don't remember seeing a single one that's taken the steps that you've taken to bootstrap yourself up to where you have an opportunity to have just a wonderful destination facility to enhance not only your city, but this whole area. And so I commend you on what you've done to date.
I have been in all of those towns between 50 and 100,000 people. Most of them do not have a downtown.
I did have one further question. Pending we can, come to a decision at the next meeting, what kind of time frame are we looking at construction through opening? What would you project?
I would say, of course, once we have a decision and we know who the owner is going to be, then we can begin getting all of the documentation together to move forward. I'm going to guess that would take us 4 months to complete all that. It takes about 14 months to build a facility of this kind, and we're not guessing at that. We work closely with Timberlake. They've done a lot of construction projects in this area, and that's their estimate as well.
So 18 months
Plus the
from today.
Right.
We have a hotel.
Right, but that's correct.
Were any of those cities that you showed up there part owners? Out of 200, you probably have some where the.
Well, Overland Park certainly was. That was a project that was ultimately owned by the city of Overland Park. Now, that's a little bit of a misnomer because it's really a project that will revert to the city of Overland Park once the bonds are paid off. So that particularly is one that was structured basically kind of the way we would propose to do it here if you decide to go that route.
Then they operate it or sell it, whatever they want to do with it if they own it, obviously.
There's a whole array of ways that we can structure this, and that's having done as many projects as I've done in my career, I've seen a lot of different ways, and Dave's been involved in many different deal structures too, and that's really why we come in such a collaborative spirit, because we know there's a lot of ways to do it, and the real question is, how do you want to do it? What make you all feel comfortable? What make us feel comfortable? What makes business investors feel comfortable? So we would rather have a dialogue and come to a logical conclusion than just say, here's one idea that's going on the rest of us.
And I might say too, Mr. Mayor, we propose that either way it goes, we will manage the properties. The city is not going to end up being the manager of a hotel project. If we go the public route, we propose that Lodgewell be the asset manager, and we'll look after the whole thing, including management of the hotel, but also oversight of the whole project. If we go the private route, we will manage the hotel.
I, for one, would like to say thank you for maintaining the integrity of one of our limited amounts of skyline that we have. So I really appreciate that you kept that in mind from our discussions.
Your comments had a lot to do with that being the case.
Thank you.
She didn't have a key to the bulldozer.
I did threaten to stand in the doorway.
You didn't have a key to the bulldozer.
No, I didn't.
I really believe that element will make it distinguishable from other projects around the country. You just don't see that a whole lot.
Do you use any part of that Chris building, or are you just leaving the facade outside?
Just a facade. We'll gut the inside, and it will be all new construction.
It's mostly done like that anyway already.
Yeah.
There's not much of the original.
But it
build left.
maintains the look.
I think that's a bit of a misnomer that people have, that it's the original building, but most of that's already gone.
To me, to make the whole project work, we have to have a hotel there, the event center, convention hall. And convention hall is very nice.
Can we get a copy of the presentation too? I forgot to ask you that today, either hard copy or electronic copy of the presentation.
Yes, we can leave a copy of this for you.
Thank you.
PowerPoint.
Thank you.
And
Any
did I
any
hear
questions?
an answer? Well, maybe I didn't mean to interrupt there, but you had suggested that perhaps a decision be on the next agenda just for our own schedules. Is that going to be the
Yes.
case?
In 2 weeks from Thursday, the 22nd, I believe that is our next city council meeting. That's when I intend to bring it back for council consideration for decision.
It's on Thursday because of President's Day, being on Monday.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and hopefully be your partner to develop this amazing project.
We thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Chris Power.
To read that.
Go to hearings. Item 6.1. Conduct a hearing amending the Enid Municipal Code 2003, Title 11, entitled Zoning, Chapter 1, entitled Purpose and Interpretation, under definitions, Section 11-1-7, entitled Definitions, to add the definition for temporary workforce housing, amending Title 11, entitled Zoning, Chapter 8, entitled Industrial Districts, Article A, entitled I-1, Planned Industrial Park District, Section 8A-4, entitled Submission of Development Plan, by adding the requirement for a drainage report, amending Title 11, entitled Zoning, Chapter 8, entitled Industrial Districts, Article A, entitled I-1, Planned Industrial Park District, Section 11-8A-5, entitled Permitted Uses, to allow for temporary industrial workforce housing, amending Title 11, entitled Zoning, Chapter 8, entitled Industrial Districts, Article B, entitled 1-2, Industrial Light District, Section 11-8B-3, entitled Permitted Uses, to allow for temporary industrial workforce housing, amending Title 11, entitled Zoning, Chapter 8, entitled Industrial Districts, Article B, entitled I-2, Industrial Light District, Section 11-8B-2, entitled Submission of a Development Plan, by adding the requirement for a drainage report, amending Title 11, entitled Zoning, Chapter 8, entitled Industrial Districts, Article C, entitled I-3 Industrial Heavy District, Section 11-8C-2, entitled Submission of a Development Plan, by adding the requirement for a drainage report, amending Title 11, entitled Zoning, Chapter 8, entitled Industrial Districts, Article C, entitled I-3 Industrial Heavy District, Section 11-8C-3, entitled District Use Regulation, to allow for temporary industrial workforce housing, amending Title 11, entitled Zoning, Chapter 9, entitled SU Special Use District, Chapter 2, entitled District Use Relations, and allow use by review for temporary workforce housing, providing for repealer, savings clause, severability, and codification.
Mr. Mayor, I think you're going to need to read that again. Your microphone wasn't on.
And then isn't that the next,
If you want to listen to it, I'll read it.
the next?
Wait, he's got another one coming up after that.
Mayor, Commissioners, I want you to, just by the title, you can see that this was an immense undertaking. I applaud the efforts by Chris and his staff and Andrea and hers. We sometimes think that things happen just by magic, but this was a massive amount of combing of ordinances and regulations. My hat's off to both of you.
The next one's
You're
even-
welcome.
The next one's even longer, so.
My apologies in
Fire away.
advance. If you recall, in December 4th, your meeting, you have already adopted and in place the regulations of how to develop an industrial workforce housing. Tonight, this is the hearing, the second hearing of two, that allows the public to give their input on to the impact of zoning ordinance that allows industrial workforce housing to occur in industrial 1, 2, and 3, as well as SU special use projects. The reason the SU was put in there, that is the zoning of the county fairgrounds. And in some of our discussions, they were looking at the opportunity to maybe have some type of industrial workforce housing on that property. In discussion with the county commissioners since that time, I don't know that that's going to happen, but maybe a month, 2 months from now, maybe we do want to. So the ordinance that we're taking comments on right now certainly would allow that. In addition to the industrial workforce housing, the Planning Commission, who does all of the reviews of our site development plans, are very used to, in commercial development, seeing drainage reports and stormwater runoff and detention and things of that nature. We have been requiring that of our applicants in industrial zoning as well, and they have been cooperating, but the Planning Commission did task staff with, let's bring that to the ordinance form, so that is a requirement, and that is also a part of this hearing this evening as well. Not a lot of discussion has been done on that one, so I wanted to lift that up for you. The first public hearing that we had on this proposal was at the Planning Commission, and I had 3 questions that were asked of me that evening, and I was not able to answer those, but I assured the Planning Commission that I would find those answers and be able to report to you this evening. The first question was, would an industrial workforce housing pay ad valorem tax? The very next day, I got with our assessor, Wade Patterson, and he said the answer to that question is yes. The second question, we have deeper in your agenda, was a proposal for fees. If you have a desire, you can charge a fee for the industrial workforce housing. And as we told you in study session, we modeled the 8% fee after the hotel motel tax that you already have, and you know that you do share that with the county. So the question was, would that 8% fee for this be shared with the county? And the answer is no, it was not envisioned that it would be shared. We simply used that model to give you a foundation for a fee structure for this. So if you move forward on having an 8% fee for these facilities within your community, you will have the benefit of all of that fee. The third question was more of a what if, and it was all of our dialogue with the industry is oil companies will contract with housing providers. And we got to know some of those in Williston, North Dakota. And for example, if I'm a housing provider and you are the oil company, we will contract and I will provide those units for you and for a fee. That's how that's taken care of. The proposal, the question was, what if the oil company wanted to provide their own housing? How would you determine the fee? And the answer to that question, it'll still be 8%. In the ordinance that you will see later in your agenda, it's 8% of the monthly proceeds for the traditional housing provider contracts with the oil company, and that'll be easy to determine what that is. If an oil company chooses to build their own, well, there will be some benefit to the employee, probably much like any other benefit that they may have, a company vehicle or housing or that type of thing. There will be some value to that. But I'm not prepared to tell you what that would be because I don't know what all the variables are. So my answer to you is if that should occur, we will then understand more of what the oil company is proposing, and we'll be able to come back to you and be able to amend our fee structure to accommodate that. So the short answer is Whether it's a housing provider, they will be paying the fee, or if it's an oil company providing for their employees, they will also be paying a fee. It'll be the same, it'll be 8%. Those are all of my comments. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions, and then I will let the podium go to anybody in the public that wants to give you comments too.
Question.
Yes?
On your second question, you were asked whether that 8% would be shared with the county?
Yes.
If, say, they decided that they would allow it out at the fairgrounds, then that would make more sense maybe to do it. If it were on county property, then how would that work?
On their property, you may in fact just want all the 8% to go to them. I mean, that would seem
that's what I'm saying, if-
reasonable.
Right, okay.
Chris, who's the manager of the site?
It will be the company that supplies the housing. The graphic that you see on the screens is a typical of an industrial workforce. They have all of the housing units. They provide the cafeteria. They provide the recreation space. They will be the managers of it.
Have we been approached by anyone to create a facility like this?
Yes, we have. We've had dialogue with 4 different companies. In fact, they were instrumental in all of the development regulations that we presented to you and you ultimately passed in December. We made sure that anything that we were requiring, such as an exit plan or fees in the level of the 8%, did that cause unnecessary concern to them? And the answer was no. Everything that was in there was very doable. So,
Is anyone going forward?
don't have a proposal right now. I know we had one. I know that it's been relocated, but the site is still available, and it's a good site should we have one. And I think we will. I don't know of one
We have
ready
one
to go.
proposal, Commissioner, for some city-owned property that coincidentally used to be a trailer park. And we're waiting for their contract submission.
And one thing that you touched on a moment ago, and I kind of want everybody to be clear on this with the exit strategy, is that these are just temporary. These won't be left up. When the company is done working, they will have to remove everything on the site, and we've got that written into everything, correct?
Yes, Commissioner, and it's my extreme desire that the commission does away with this ordinance when you determine that the oil play is over. And we estimate that's anywhere from 5 to 10 years. But you can always bring it back should you have some other spike in employment in our neighborhood and bring it up. So, I mean, sometimes we have ordinances and they serve us well, and then they linger on our books and end up handicapping us down the road. I think there's a real need. This addresses that. When the need's over, I'd encourage you to get rid of the ordinance.
Could they sublease it to somebody else?
Yes, they could. Ownership really isn't our concern, other than that we will have somebody, a part of the fee that we license, that we can get in contact with should there be issues that need to be addressed.
And that it goes away when it's done.
And I think it'd be good to note that these are not going to be located right on our entryways into town. These are going to be in the industrial areas that are not visible.
That's correct. In our development regulations, they are not allowed to abut 412 or 81 highway. And we purposely chose industrial zoning because it typically is set aside from our traditional residential development that we already have.
Good questions.
I'll yield the mic, Mayor, in case there's people in the audience that want to give you input.
There's not. No one has registered the intent to address this issue, Mr. Mayor.
That then really concludes our hearing portion of this item.
Can you just say ditto?
Is item 7.1 exactly like item 6.1?
7.1 is the ordinance that
It is.
is what you just had a hearing on. Yes.
I think we ought to hear it.
So we don't have to reread it. It all take a line.
You're the one that has to listen. Let's do it right. Item 7.1, consider an ordinance amending the Enid Municipal Code 2003, Title 11, entitled Zoning, Chapter 1, entitled Purpose, Interpretation, definitions, Section 11-1-7, entitled Definitions, to add the definition for temporary workforce housing. Amending Title 11, entitled Zoning, Chapter 8, entitled Industrial Districts, Article A, entitled I-1, Planned Industrial Park District, Section 11-8A-4, entitled Submission of Development Plan, by adding the requirement for a drainage report. Amending Title 11, entitled Zoning, Chapter 8, entitled Industrial Districts, Article A, entitled I-1, Planned Industrial Park District, Section 11-8A-5, entitled Permitted Uses, to allow for temporary industrial workforce housing. Amending Title 11, entitled Zoning, Chapter 8, entitled Industrial Districts, Article B, entitled 1-2, or I-2, Industrial Light District, Section 11-8B-3, entitled Permitted Uses, to allow for temporary industrial workforce housing. Amending Title 11, entitled Zoning, Chapter 8, entitled Industrial Districts, Article B, entitled I-2, Industrial Light District, Section 11-8B-2, entitled Submission of a Development Plan, by adding the requirement for a drainage report. Amending Title 11, entitled Zoning, Chapter 8, entitled Industrial Districts, Article C, entitled I-3, Industrial Heavy District, Section 11-8C-2, entitled Submission of a Development Plan, by adding the requirement for a drainage report. Amending Title 11, entitled Zoning, Chapter 8, entitled Industrial Districts, Article C, entitled I-3, Industrial Heavy District, Section 11-8C-3, entitled District Use Regulation, to allow for temporary industrial workforce housing. Amending Title 11, entitled Zoning, Chapter 9, entitled SU, Special Use District, Chapter 2, entitled District Use Regulations, and allow use by review for temporary workforce housing, providing for repealer, savings clause, severability, and codification. Chris, you're still up.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
A motion by Drew, second by Tammy. Any further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0.
A little feeling.
Item 7.2, consider an emergency ordinance adding Title II, Chapter 6B, Sections 2-6B-18B of the Enid Municipal Code 2003 for temporary industrial workforce housing park fees, providing for repealer, savings clause, severability, effective date, penalty codification, and emergency.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Tammy, a second by Drew. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0.
Move for emergency.
Motion by Drew.
Second.
Second by Mike. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0. Under administration, 8.1, consider an ordinance amending Section 6-1-4, security verification form of the Enid Municipal Code 2003. Andrea?
Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager. The next two items are part of a multi-year review by my department of our codes. This Section 8.1 amends the ordinance, and what it does is remove some of the exceptions to the requirement that vehicles carry a security verification form. Those exceptions were either never found in state law or have been removed from state law. There were a couple of both. And then we added two exceptions that are found in state law, one being taxi cabs don't have to carry the insurance verification form in the vehicle. They do have to have insurance, but not in the vehicle. And the other, and I've forgotten what it was. Sorry. The other is, I'm sorry, when a vehicle is not being used on the streets or highways, when it's essentially a black tag. The tags are no longer black, but those vehicles that are not being driven anymore, that are parked in driveways that don't run, the state doesn't require insurance to be carried on those vehicles. So this just matches our ordinance with state law.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ron, second by Mike. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0. Item 8.2, consider an ordinance amending Section 6-1-11, school zones of the Enid Municipal Code 2003.
And this ordinance is really just another housekeeping item. It will help us with our new software and in inputting the individual violations into our new court software, but there is no change to the speed limit, there's no change to the amount of the fine, there's no change to the violation. So really, it's just housekeeping.
Move for approval.
Second. Motion by Drew, second by Ron. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0. Item 8.3, consider an agreement with Tetra Tech, Inc., Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, for design of the Cleveland Street and Chestnut Avenue intersection improvement, project number R-1311A. Robert?
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager. This is an item to approve an agreement with Tetra Tech Incorporated. The Commission has appropriate funds this year for the design of the Cleveland and Chestnut intersection. And I want to go through the selection process. We did solicit request proposals in accordance with state law. Contracts for design services are based on qualification based. Did select proposals and received 4 proposals from Tetra Tech, Cabot Engineering, Poe & Associates, Smith Roberts, Balderschneider. All have done work with the City of Enid and have capabilities to do the project, but we did go through the selection process, and based on the staff experience of Tetra Tech, Jeff Covalt, who has done a number of projects with us, including the bridge, our bridge bond issue project, Jonathan Harshall, who has done the project engineer on a number of projects, including some of our trail projects, as well as their experience in working with an Oklahoma Department of Transportation projects and working in downtown areas in the MAPS projects in Oklahoma City and similar projects, did find them to be the best selected firm for this project. The work, what we have negotiated a contract for not only the design, but for developing the right-of-way requirements and going forth and providing for acquiring those right-of-way that's necessary for relocating, or not relocating, but coordinating the utility relocations and providing for traffic analysis study, and also for providing for the hydraulics and the drainage calculations and the drainage system that go through the intersection. That is important because I want to outline here on this map. Cleveland is, show Cleveland in the middle going north and south, and Chestnut east and west. This is the intersection in the lower part of this picture we've highlighted in yellow. I do want to identify the stormwater detention basin that will be developed north of this site, and it does drain through the intersection, so the intersection plan will include that part of the drainage design. I just want to blow this up a little further to show the intersection. The master plan for transportation system calls for 5-lane intersection at Cleveland and Chestnut, 4 lanes to the north on Cleveland, but it calls for 3 lanes, a 3-lane road on Chestnut. Now, we will reevaluate that in this process and come back to the commission and see if we want to consider improving Chestnut to a 4-lane, but the transportation plan calls for 3-lane. We have negotiated a contract for $245,000. It's presented to the commission tonight for your approval, and upon approval, we will start the design process. I anticipate the design process will take about 9 months, but then we'll probably go through another budget process to go through right-of-way acquisition and another budget process to go through utility relocations and to consider funds available for construction. Be happy to answer any questions.
Robert, do you have any idea what the additional expense might be to go to a 4-lane on the east-west Chestnut versus 3? Is there any projection?
I don't have that number for you tonight. The cost is basically, it's adding the payment, the additional payment, which is, about going to be about a 30% increase. You're adding, going from 3 to 4 lanes, you're adding 30% to that. And the third, you're adding about a 30%.
How far east and west would you go on Chestnut?
Well, this intersection project on Chestnut, as shown here, goes about 300 to 400 feet to do the pavement and the transition back to the existing pavement. Now, we'll be transitioning, this intersection will transition back to 2 lanes, because that's all that's there in either case at this point. But we want to consider if that's eventually going to be a 4-lane road or a 3-lane road. And we'll go through the traffic analysis as part of this report, and based on the traffic counts and the future demand, that will really probably provide the information to make the best decision there, and then we'll bring it back to the commission.
Robert, we've done some other projects very similar to this recently. How does the cost of this compare to those?
The design cost is very comparable to our design costs for the Oakwood and Willow intersection, which was just completed. Yes, sir. We're right in line. We have a little bit more stormwater activity in this project, but otherwise, we're very well comparable.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ron, second by Mike.
I'm Drew. Mike's over there.
It's been a long afternoon.
Keeping you on your toes. Any further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Did you get Drew down as the second? Okay. Sorry, Drew.
It's quite all right. Better watch out. I'll make you read 7.1 again.
I'd like to read it again. Do you want to listen to it? I'll read it. Are we at 8.4?
We are.
Good. Accept and approve the June 30, 2012 Independent Auditor's Report on the financial statements of the City of Enid, Oklahoma, and its related authorities. Gerald Gilbert.
Mayor, Gerald, before you start, I want to let the commission know, this is the second year in a row that we have met the state mandated deadline for submission. That may in and of itself not sound like a great accomplishment, but you'll remember the 3 years prior, it took us almost 4 months to complete it. It's a massive amount of work and a key time of the year, and Gerald Gilbert is the man responsible for that. And he'll tell you it was all of his folks, and yeah, they did have a part in it, but Gerald, I'm proud of you. You're setting a great precedent, and I'm very pleased with it.
Thank you.
Good job.
Audit's a lot of work by a lot of people, you're right. So a lot of good news in this audit, so I'm pleased to be here, and for those reasons, I'm pleased to finish the audit. This is kind of the final step to present it to you, the governing body, make it available to all of the stakeholders of the community. So I'd like to talk about some of the highlights in the audit, and then talk about the findings, and then basically talk about some of the other stuff, answer your questions. Our auditor's also here to answer any of your questions as well. As you know, Ron Cottrell is our auditor. This is the 5th year in a row that he's audited the city. He's audited since 2008. That's his contact info. Speaking of the audit highlights, I hope you've had an opportunity to look at it. A lot of information in it. So we're going to go over some of these highlights. Some of the good news, net assets are basically you could think of as equity. It's the residuals between your asset and liabilities. That went up about 9% from 2011 to 2012. So for 175, 191 million, good news. And also just thought about this point here, actually talking with the city manager and others, talking about net assets going up. But going back to the audit in 2005, we had 100 million in net assets. So we've nearly doubled net assets in about 7 years. So again, more good news. Some really good news right here on total revenues increasing. Typically that's been happening over the last few years. We're all aware of sales taxes going up, our utility fees going up, about 10% there from 70 million to 78 million overall. But it's really the next point that really jumped out at me is our expenses for the last year actually decreased from 66.4 million to about a 6% decrease. So sometimes when I'm just looking at all the things we're doing, it doesn't feel that way, but we actually, that's what the report tells us. And so we went down 6%. So again, more good news. Overall capital assets, like we've been talking about tonight, and future capital assets, they went up, 17% increase in investment in the community, in infrastructure, sewer plants, water lines, roads, all positive news. And then to kind of end the highlights there, we've spent some money, but we still have $61.2 million in cash investments. So you can see our breakdown between unrestricted and restricted there.
Expand on that a little bit.
This is from the audit. If you go in there and look at the total on the statement of net assets, you'll see cash and investments total of $61.2 million. It breaks down into what's unrestricted in various funds available to be used, and restricted, which is also available to be used, but it's restricted for a specific purpose, mostly debt service. So looking at that breakdown, what that means is that's how much money we had in cash investments at that point in time.
Let me place maybe in a term that's easier to understand. In the restricted cash element there, $33 million. What that means is we have enough cash on hand today to pay all of our existing water debt, that loan that expires in 2018. We're unable to do that because of the agreement that spawned that particular bond, but we could pay it off today and be debt-free in our largest bond indenture. Similarly, we saved enough money in decreased expenditures this year to pay for half of the automatic meter reading capability we installed last year.
Just out of curiosity, what accounted for that decrease in expenditures? How did we manage to?
That's real easy, Commissioner. And I'll lay this at the feet of the employees of the City of Enid. They've embraced technology to replace labor. You're seeing the benefit of our automated trash service, which reduced our employee ranks from about, what was it, Jim, 28 employees to now 8?
It went down 8 employees, but we increased our commercial and industrial operations.
Which are typically higher profitability issues. The automatic meter reading removed a requirement for, I think, 4 employees. But across the board, and we have not reduced or let any employee go in this period. We have allowed retirements or normal transition out of the workforce. But we've also embraced a series of technologies that replace or enhanced, eliminated high-intensity labor evolutions. We've bought better equipment to decrease the time, the lubricants and fuels that are required to do the job. And I'll give you one example. We used to take 4 days to mow Meadow Lake Park. Now we can mow it in 1 afternoon because we got rid of 5 Hustler mowers and bought 1 Tiger mower that you gave us the ability to do last year. The capital expenditures that we've done on providing replacement equipment not only gives us a faster, more efficient way of doing it, but it reduces the amount of time, thus the attendant expenses that go with that. Fuel, labor, overtime, et cetera. The employees have produced an $800,000 a year reduction in workman's comp. There is a similar, not as large reduction in medical payments. I lay this squarely at the feet of the dedicated City of Enid employees who provided us this savings.
Good story.
And we clearly are not spending all of the city's money.
Not all of it, not by a long shot.
You still haven't answered my unrestricted question, Gerald. Talk to me about the $28 million. What does that mean?
It basically means that's money that is in pool cash and investments.
Okay. Which you pull out and use and add to the unrestricted, probably.
Only if you want to give Gerald a heart attack.
Yes. It's characterized as unrestricted, which means that it's available to be used or to be considered to be used.
That was as of June 30th last year, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Which probably has increased from that figure today.
Might be more.
Well, actually, I thought you might ask that. I did look and see we were at about $59.5 million right now. And if you asked me on Friday, when we had the sales tax in, which will be about 2.7 million, we'd be at about the same level that we are now, about on the audit of 61 million or so.
I think that's a healthy total.
Well, I think it's a healthy total. I think we'll certainly, as we look forward, we're going to have to manage, our projects as we've done very well over the years to end up in this position, to ensure that we stay in this position.
Mr. Mayor, you can't make Gerald happy unless it's all cash sales.
But all in all, that shows us that we've been pretty responsible, had to deal with.
Yes, it does. And I will tell you, Mayor, I've learned a lesson. I've been here 8 years now and going on 9. And one of the lessons that I've learned is this isn't anybody's personal piggy bank, where the more you have, the better off you are. There's needs of the city that have to be fulfilled. And as you know, the bigger that pot gets, the more people just want to spend it for something. So I think you have to invest. You have to invest in infrastructure, and that's what we've done.
Keep your hat on.
I've got a couple more slides here. This is really talking about some reports. There's 3 reports in the audit. There's the financial statement report, the internal control report, and basically the grant report or the single audit A133 report. And we'll talk about those in a little more detail as we go forward. The management discussion analysis is several pages at the beginning. It's got some comparative data in there from 2011 to 2012. So if you want to look at the net asset numbers, some of the things I've talked about, it's in there. The financial statements themselves, you can see there's a section on those and notes, and then there's more supplementary information in the back. The financial statement opinions at the very beginning, if you look at it, if you look at paragraph 4, just cut to the chase, it'll say, in our opinion, whatever the auditor's opinion is. His opinion is that the financial statements as a whole are presented, I think, free of material misstatement, or there's reasonable assurance of that. So really, it's the best assurance you can get. The opinion on internal control, there was one finding related to accrued vacation. To be specific, accrued vacation of management confidential employees. Several of those employees have over the 2-year limit. We do have a policy that we're not supposed to have more than 2 years accrued. The city manager is aware of that and will take necessary steps to resolve or rectify that situation.
And that essentially what means that people aren't taking vacations?
Yes.
I just wanted to put this on there because if you remember last year's audit, there was 5 findings actually, and 4 of them have been resolved. One of them was the accrued vacation, which we did make an effort on, but we did not resolve it. The 4 that we did resolve are related to payroll, and specifically payroll terminations, getting to payroll in a timely manner, golf receipts being done on a daily basis, tracking and reconciliation of golf memberships, and red flag identity theft program. All those have been resolved. So I want to put those on there because I think those are good news things, again, to show you that city management is responsive to issues or findings, and we work to try and resolve those. Finally, the last opinion is on compliance. This is basically for federal and state grants, and I think, in the auditor's opinion, he did not find any deficiencies in our internal control over compliance. Again, these are the same audit highlights that I just talked about. You can see, again, a lot of good news in there, but I think at this point I want to open it up to questions, and also our auditor, Ron Cockrell, would you stand up? So I'm sure everybody remembers Ron. He's been here a while. Some of you may have gotten to talk to him. He was, an audit is a long process, and the process really starts for us at the end of fiscal year, but in earnest when we start making our adjustments that have to be made. Ron actually did come in with his team, did some interim work in July, and then he came back in October for a total of about 6 weeks and finished up after Thanksgiving, which enabled us to complete the report in a timely manner.
Ron, why don't you come forward? I know that there'll be some questions for you.
Yeah, Mr. Cottrell is here, and I know him and his staff spent a great deal of time here in Enid preparing this report, and I would just like to ask him if there's anything at all about our financial situation that we should be concerned about.
I don't think there's anything you should be concerned about. One issue that, just as an auditor and seeing what has happened in other communities, not just in Oklahoma, but in other areas of the country. The overall cash balances that Gerald showed are good. That's really where you need to be. You've got sufficient cash to do the things that you need to do. You've got money in reserve to cover those things as far as required funding there. One thing in EMA, if you'll notice on the balance sheet or statement of net assets for EMA, it has a deficit balance in its share of pool cash. In other words, it's expended, transferred, whatever, more funds than what it had as its share. Overall, you still had plenty of cash, but EMA's share has really gone down significantly in the last several years. Probably the reason for that is initially everything gets funded through EMA. You transfer money to the Capital Improvements Fund, you transfer money to the Water Projects Fund, you transfer money to the Sewer Improvements Fund. You transferred in this past year several $1 million to EMA to purchase properties and things like that. So all this money is originating in EMA. All the cash is originating in EMA. And then there are other transfers that go on among all the funds too. But what has happened, are
those coming out of the general fund to fund the EMA and the economic?
Well, that's the problem. Most of it's coming out of EMA. And so it's leaving EMA's share of that unrestricted cash in the hole.
Well, where does EMA get their money, though?
Through water and sewer revenues.
Goes directly into that fund?
Yes, yes. So it's not that EMA is not making money. It is. I mean, it's got a positive operating income, if you want to call it, net income there. It's just by the time you transfer money to all these other things from EMA, then that leaves EMA's cash short.
Is it a timing issue?
Part of it is. Some things Gerald and I have discussed it at length, and I think he's initiated some things that, will get it going back the other way, or already has. I think it's down now from what it was at June 30th as far as the deficit balance. But that really would be my one concern, Commissioner. I think as a part of that, what you need to do, I know budget time's coming up, and what you need to do when you get to the budget process is look at everything as a whole and look at it long-term. We've got a lot of projects going on. We've got a lot more projects kind of in the planning stages. And, we need to make sure that over the next however many years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, our revenue structures and our expenditure budgets will work for the city as a whole.
I have two more questions.
Yes.
On page 8, about the fourth paragraph down, the general fund is the chief operating fund of the city. At the end of the current fiscal year, unassigned fund balance of the general fund was $6,900,000. Explain that if you would.
The numbers that Gerald showed are combined numbers for the city as a whole.
And this is just...
When you go to the fund-by-fund basis, just like we were talking about EMA, when you look just at the general fund, standing on its own, its fund balance or its equity, difference between assets and liabilities, that is not committed or assigned or reserved or whatever, is the $6.9 million. In other words,
that's 6.9 of the 28 million?
Well, the 28 million is a cash number. This number, a fund balance number, is really not just cash, but all of the assets minus the liabilities in the general fund. This is what's left or part of what's left.
You can't spend assets.
This is what you can spend at your discretion. As of June 30th, if you said we've got
cash,
$10 million in assets, cash and receivables, minus $3 million in accounts payable liabilities.
That's my question.
And we can
I think that was about
spend,
$6 million.
this is what we can spend.
Wasn't that about $6 million last year?
There may have been, yes.
Question was what it was last year?
Yes.
think it was a little bit higher. I think it was 7.1 million last year, but
Yeah, it may be, I'm not
Well,
sure.
you answered my question.
Okay. What the unassigned means is it's not committed or restricted in any way. It's whatever the council wants to do.
Saving, yeah, okay. That to me is the healthy part. And everybody wants to spend that. My other question is, are we intending to do the audit after June the 30th this year also, as the last 2 years?
yeah, oh, yes.
Good, good.
But city manager's mentioned the progress that we've made. We hope to even complete it sooner than in December 31st. And again, it's a difficult process, but we've experienced, been good experiences, so we've gotten up to speed, I think, on where we need to be to produce the information we need so auditors can come in and audit it. And so I look to make improvements on timeliness of filing. But the important thing to know is it's filed on time, so.
I feel more comfortable with it being done in 6 months than in 13 months.
Well, I think we're technically required by state law to get it done by
Yes.
calendar year. Yeah.
Ron, we thank you.
Okay, I think just along that same line, Mr. Benson said Gerald and his staff have made tremendous strides in the last several years over their portion of the audit, really what they're responsible for, what they're doing, and how they get it to the point that it's ready for the audit. So,
One last question. How does Enid rank against the other cities that you participate in as far as financial health?
really, I think you're in good shape. You've got a lot going on.
Could you be a little more ebullient about that?
Yeah, you're supposed to see the cold stone face. No, really, I think if one of the things that we look at, if you look at pages 15 and 16, we talked about the 6.9 million in unassigned, unrestricted fund balance in the general fund. One of the keys, I think, for most cities or most municipalities is how much unassigned or unrestricted fund balance do you have in the general fund as a percentage of your expenditures? And for small cities, you want it to be maybe 25%. As the city gets larger, you've got a much bigger revenue base, sales tax base mainly. And so the percentage is generally, that's kind of the healthy percentage is generally less. But if you look at yours, let's just say $7 million, you turn over to page 16, and you had total expenditures of 14 million, and then drop down and pick up transfers out of 27 million. So you add those two together, and then take the 6.9 million percentage of that, and you're well within that range that you need to be in.
You lost me on page 16.
Okay?
Since it's good news.
Yes. Don't make me add these and divide it in my head. That's what I'm asking.
I did hear it, but I did hear it. I still need to know.
No, I think what you're looking at is your percentage, that particular percentage or that ratio is well above what the minimum comfort range would be. The minimum probably for a city the size of Enid would be maybe 8 to 10%.
17.
You're, I don't know, Gerald?
We're up about 15%.
Yeah, that's,
Shocking.
so yes, I think, Eric, the city of Enid is really, I think you're doing a good job overall. You've got a lot going on, a lot of capital-type projects and purchases going on. But as you can see, or as you have seen, sometimes you got to spend money to make money, even though you're not in the business of making money still.
Is that recorded?
You're not in the business of losing.
That's a good point.
We appreciate your relationship with the city, Ron. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you,
Mayor,
Paul.
I'll make a motion that we accept and approve the audit report.
I will second.
Motion by Ron, second by Mike.
That's Drew.
Any further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0. Consent items.
Make a motion that we approve the consent items.
Second.
Motion by Drew, second by Tammy. Please cast your,
For when you're gone.
motion carries
steal my-
5-0.
Just practicing.
You'll have 2 years.
Item 10,
Nay.
recess to convene as the Enid Municipal Authority. The trustees of the Enid Municipal Authority's regular meeting, all are present except for Lewis and Todd. They are absent. Item 12, Enid Municipal Authority regular meeting. Item 12.1, accept and approve the June 30, 2012 Independent Auditor's Report on the financial statements of the Enid Municipal Authority.
Move for approval.
Second.
You lost. Motion by Drew,
Have it.
second by Tammy.
Doesn't matter.
Ron, anyway.
Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0.
I do hope we have enough money to pay these claims here in the
Item 12.2, approval of claims in the amount of $208,199.15.
Move for approval.
Motion by Drew, second by Mike. Discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0. We'll now adjourn to convene as the Enid Economic Development Authority. The trustees of the Enid Economic Development Authority regular meeting are all except for Lewis and Todd. Item 15, the Enid Economic Development Authority regular meeting. Item 15.1, accept and approve the June 30, 2012 Independent Auditor's Report on the financial statements
motion to accept.
of the Enid Economic Development Authority.
Second.
Motion by Ron, second by Tammy. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0. Item 15.2, approval of claims in the
So
amount
moved.
of $498,269.32. Motion by Drew,
Second.
second by Tammy. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0. Under, we need to adjourn out of the, we'll now, adjourn out of the Enid City Commission
Reconvene as Enid.
and reconvene. Well, we've got, as the Enid City Commission, reconvene. Under item 17, public discussion, no one was signed up, so we'll move to item 18. Consider convening into executive session to discuss economic development and to reconvene into regular session to take any necessary action.
So moved.
It's not a race.
I let him finish.
Let's have a motion.
I was
Motion by Tammy,
Nobody-
second by Mike. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-0.
Good commission meeting. Oh, good news.